So we need to talk, y'all. I know for the past Lord since Gen Con, myself, many members of the Paizoverse, we've all been feeling very anxious, very let's all huddle in our spaces. What the hell are we gonna do? Here's the stuff that went down with Paizo. And the general consensus has been everything's gonna be fine. We're gonna wait for the other shoe to drop and the sun will shine out tomorrow. Never did I ever think the company that I had been making videos about for years and years and years was going to unionize. So that's huge. And I am joined today by man, myth, legend, Paizo's senior developer, Jason Tondro, who's worked on checks, notes, definitely still remembers. Let's see here. Fly for your die.
Yeah.
We just talked about the Dawn of Flame, not that Starfighter AP with all the ifrits in it, which is how Tommy's brain remembers these things. Book one of Extinction Curse, I
Yep.
believe, and a
Yep.
bunch of other stuff
Yeah.
about this thing, this United Paizo Workers thing that I'm
Sure.
sure you've seen on socials. So I guess I'm just gonna turn it over to you, my friend. What in the heck is going on?
Yeah. Okay. So first off, let me say thank you for having me here. And I really appreciate this chance to talk to everybody and take questions. You're right. Like we have been waiting for a month for the other shoe to drop and to kind of see what was going to happen with this whole Paizo accountability hashtag. For folks that aren't up with everything that happened, it started about a month ago when Sarah Marie, a long-standing and much beloved customer service leader on Paizo staff, was either dismissed or resigned, depending on how you want to put it, unfairly and without notice. And then Diego, another customer service rep, whom we all adore and love, quit in solidarity with Sarah. And this created an opening for a larger conversation about conditions at Paizo. And things have been kind of coming out, a lot of accusations. Now, some of those accusations were just wildly inaccurate, but some others were based on fact. And so the freelancers, the people that have been writing for Paizo for years, they all decided to withhold their labor. So we had already hired a lot of these freelancers to write manuscripts for us, and they decided to either not take any more contracts, to stop working on contracts they were already working on, or to withhold delivery of completed manuscripts that they'd already written for us and signed contracts to deliver. And they were like, nope, we're not going to hand them over. Well, Paizo requires, we need freelancers for the way that we make books. We hire freelancers to write most of the words in all the books we publish. So that created a level of crisis that we hadn't quite resolved as a company yet. Well, meanwhile, behind the scenes, Paizo's full-time employees started to talk unionization. Now, we'd been talking, lots of people in the tabletop role-playing game industry have been talking about unions for a very long time. Conditions are bad, salaries are poor, but we were so busy just trying to kind of keep our head above water and get books out every month that there's not a lot of headspace left to organize a union. You know, unions involve a lot of paperwork and legal stuff and hoops to jump through and requirements. And it was tough for any one person to ever do all of that. Well, Jenny Jarzabski reached out to me a few weeks ago and asked if I was interested in a union still. And I was like, hell yeah, because I came up in a union family. And she invited me to a Discord server, and lo and behold, there's a bunch of people already here. Like I was not the first person that she brought in, and nor was I the last. And pretty soon we had 2-3 dozen folks. And we chose a volunteer organizing committee to run the thing. And because we had a committee of people, about a half a dozen folks from divisions all over throughout Paizo, we were able to divide up that work that no one person would have been able to do by themselves. So pretty soon we reached out to the Communication Workers of America to serve as kind of a patron and mentor union to help work with us. They're a very large, well-established, and highly respected union. They actually grew out of the old telephone operators union, but now they handle media and entertainment of all kinds. And we filed paperwork. We also started tracking who was eligible for union membership. Yeah, to be a member of a union in America, at least the kind of union that we're forming, you have to be a non-manager. You can't be a manager of any kind. Well, Paizo's got a lot of managers for a lot of reasons. It's broken up into a lot of divisions and those little departments, some of which are only 2 or 3 people, some of which are larger, 7 or 8 people. They all need their own manager. So there's just a lot of management folks at Paizo. And if you cut out all those people, you're left with about 50 employees, about 50 eligible union employees at Paizo. And that's nice because that's a nice manageable number. Like we can actually like make a spreadsheet and track every single person.
Mm-hmm.
We're not trying to unionize a Amazon or something big like that. So with a small group of people, we could start recruiting, and we knew from our CWA training, our anti-union inoculation training that we took, and we have prepared for this. We knew that we needed to go into this a union announcement with a large show of support. We needed to have not just a majority to win a vote. A vote to unionize a workplace only requires 50% plus one. That's 26 people. But we knew that we had to go in with more than that. We needed to have a cushion, and the more people we could show as being part of the union, the more persuasive we'd be when it came to getting Paizo's executive and leadership team to acknowledge the union and to recognize us as the legal bargaining arm for the employees of Paizo. Well, so we continued recruiting. And by the time that we launched, let's see, today is Monday. Today is well, so this is Thursday when we announced all of this. And by that point, we had a supermajority of 35 employees, which is about 70% of the eligible employees at Paizo. And since that day, our numbers have grown. So we are now more than that. And we have one goal, which is to get Paizo's leadership team to acknowledge our union, to acknowledge the United Paizo Workers. However, if Paizo does not respond to that request, if they do not say yes, we have already filed paperwork with the National Labor Relations Board to hold a union vote. Now that takes a little while, 6 to 8 weeks, but when it happens, we are absolutely confident that we'll have the numbers to make that vote happen. So Paizo is unionizing one way or another, either if the management acknowledges us or if we have to go the longer route and have a vote. But that's going to happen. And then once that does happen, well, then we'll consider next steps. That's kind of the short version, even though it wasn't very short.
Compared to like that, and then we go in everyone's Twitter since September. Right. Like, here's the long, like, I distinctly remember, I think it was Mark Seifter, when it was like, you know what Paizo's retirement strategy is? Work at WotC. I remember seeing that. I was like, no, that sucks. Why would you have to? And again, that's why unionizing and like getting all of this together, it fills me with so much like joy and stuff. And I knew Paizo was a relatively small company, but I didn't know that there was only like 50 people eligible, of which basically the whole crew is on board, which is
even many of the managers that are at Paizo are fully on board with us. And in fact, 6 months ago, they weren't managers, or a year ago, they were managers. They were regular employees, and they were talking union before they became management. So we have a lot of support. As for our retirement plan, Work at Wizards, well, let me tell you my side. My first manager at Paizo was Judy Bauer, managing editor. She now works at Paizo. The woman underneath her, our senior editor, was Liz Liddell, who became a Pathfinder designer. She now works at Wizards. When I joined the Starfinder team 2 years ago, I worked under Amanda Heyman, who now works at Wizards. So in other words, you and Mark are not wrong. Yeah.
Yep, that is indeed. So everybody's trying to get together and stuff. I know, like, I've seen the big long blog post, I suppose, and like where like we're talking about wages to help you live in a very expensive city. Right. Oh gosh, I guess from the owlbear's mouth might be the easier way to get the information. Exactly what all are the Paizo folks looking to pull out of unionization?
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so let's presume that we know that unionization is going to happen happen. It might be soon, it might be later, but eventually it's going to happen. Maybe as late as a couple of months from now. But then what? Then what do we want? And what kind of started all this? Well, there's a lot of things that we would like to see change. Let's talk about salaries for a minute. I was hired at Paizo as an editor at $38,000. Now, I was living in the cheapest neighborhood of Seattle, and I live by myself. Like it means I don't have a roommate to split costs. I've got student loans and a car, and I had an hour commute. And when I showed my budget to my manager, Judy, my food allowance was $20 a month. Like that was right. And if I didn't get freelance, I didn't eat. Well, now to Eric Mona's credit, that minimum salary for the editorial side for editors, designers, developers, art has gone up to 40. But many of our fellow employees on the other side of the team, like in customer service or warehouse staff, they do not have that level of minimum pay, and they're hired on for substantially less than 40, substantially less than the 38 that I came on. And listen, when you're a senior, now here I am 3.5 years. I've got, a small amount of raises, but my friends at Wizards are literally making literally more than twice my salary. And they're buying houses and stuff. And I'm like, okay, we're never going to be able to afford that stuff. Like we can't, we're barely getting by, everybody at Paizo, and that's no good. Well, anyway, so yes, we want a salary review. Now, maybe the answer is there isn't any money for that. Maybe Paizo doesn't make enough money to pay us more. Well, a union rep will allow us to find out the truth of that statement or not. We'll be able to look at where money is going and analyze if there's money to increase our salaries. If we can't get a salary increase, or maybe even in addition, we'd like to talk about the question of remote work. For the last 2 years, most of Paizo has been working remotely from home. And for some folks, that's not good. They want to go back to the office for whatever reason. They prefer the office environment. That's awesome. But many of us are quite happy working from home. We found that it solves some problems, or even just allows us to work in the first place in ways that we wouldn't have been able to do before. And we'd like to make that opportunity permanent. Right now, Paizo's management leadership team has only said we're going to be allowed to work from home until the end of the pandemic. Well, we don't really see any reason why that should stop. We've proven over the last 2 years that we can hit all of our scheduling requirements, our project management deadlines, by working from home. In fact, and I'm quoting Eric Mona here, we may even be more productive working from home than we were in the office. So we'd like to see remote work opportunities continue for those employees that want them. We also have some serious problems with the way that our LGBTQ employees are treated in the office. That we have some problems with the ways that underrepresented employees, they don't get a seat at the table. They don't get treated properly by corporate staff, company staff, and it's gotten so difficult. It's made a working environment so bad that many of my beloved employees who I looked up to and respected and learned from every day just couldn't take it anymore, and they just left. They quit and left. And not because they had other gigs lined up, not because they were going to work at Wizards, but because they just couldn't take that environment anymore. And that's got to change. That's got to change. That's just a few. We'd like to see, in general, salary transparency. We'd like to have everybody's salaries posted, make everybody's salaries public, so that we know where that money is going. We'd like one last thing before I'll shut up, but we'd like to look at how we hire folks. Sometimes when we're under time pressure and we feel like we need somebody in the development staff or the organized play staff, and we need them right now and we need them fast. Well, the logical thing for us to do is to go to our freelancer pool. And that makes perfect sense. Our freelancers are fantastic people. We have a working relationship with them already. They know the style guide, they know the game, they know the rules, they know the setting, they can deliver on time. It makes perfect sense. But our freelancer pool is not the only people who should have an opportunity to work at Paizo. When I applied for Paizo, I had never written a word for this company. I had never written a word for Paizo. I saw a job posting on Paizo's website with requirements and an email address to send my resume. And that's what I did. And I was living in Georgia, across the country at the time. and I was a professor. I was an academic, and my resume got me an interview. The interview got me an editorial test. I had 3 days to fill out the test, and then that test went to Paizo's editorial team, and everything about me was erased. My name, anything that would identify my gender, my age, anything that identified me was removed so that editors could read my test without any idea of who I was. So it was an anonymous blind test and application. And that's the way it should be. That's the way, and that's what got me the offer. Well, so we want to make sure that anybody else can do that. That all the players and fans and GMs or anybody out there who wants to write for Paizo or wants to work at this company, they don't have to become part of our freelancer pool first just to get considered. They can apply from wherever they are. And this hooks in with the remote work issue because a lot of folks that want to work for Paizo, they can't afford to move across the country to Seattle, right? And this hits like diverse voices the most. Folks that come from, socioeconomic backgrounds that don't allow them to just move across the country at the drop of a hat. So if we could make our company able to employ people anywhere in the country, you could apply from your home wherever you are, and you could work for Paizo from wherever you are. That would allow us to hire people that are more representative of the players who actually play the game. And that's what we need to do. That's a goal.
For sure. I live in Southern California right now, but I'm from a very small town in the Midwest.
There you go.
Like my graduating class was like 30 kids, and we all we played TTRPGs. Why? Because there's nothing to do. And so I know a lot of people who they definitely could not just, why not? Let's move to a very expensive city for this job opportunity. And they would have to pass up on it just because of how much of a bear that is.
Every small town in America has a kid like you, has somebody out there who's like, God, I wish I could I wish I could make role-playing games all day long. Like, those people deserve a shot. They deserve a chance at the gig. Absolutely.
For sure. And I definitely I feel the LGBT rights. Like, when that came up, I was really happy to see that the trans rights post on y'all's blog. Cause one of my best friends, we played Rise of the Rune Lords together for 2 or 3 books. And over the course of that campaign, because of her character, she figured out she was trans. And it was kind of in that moment that's you know what? This game is really helpful for a lot of people. Let's make content about it. And then everything that came out was, I know she is in a podcast with some of my other friends. They were playing Iron Gods. They are now playing Wild Beyond the Witchlight because it was such a punch to the gut when that all came down. And it's really cool to see that it's not just okay, we need more money. It's no, we are trying to clean up the workplace, make it better, not burn down the house. Just we want to help build the house together with y'all.
You're absolutely right. We don't want to burn down the house. We all work at this company. We make these games. We love doing it. And we want Paizo to succeed. I love your story. The pathway of person playing a character of the opposite gender to trans is a serious pipeline, right? That is a real thing. And I've had wonderful, brilliant trans colleagues at Paizo who have been chased out of that company. And that's a tragic shame, and we need to address it.
For sure.
Yeah. And the thing is that Paizo as a company, the creators, the developers, the freelancers, the designers, we're very open about our desire to get these voices, underrepresented voices, portrayed in the game and represented. And we this. We've got what's the book that we just put out that has the trans paladin? It's one of the
polar opposite of definitely not Book of the Damned, and I don't remember its name.
God. Yeah. And so this is something that we're committed to. So we want to get an employee pool that represents that and can speak to those characters from an authentic, sincere, experienced point of view.
Because that's how you make the content. That is what the content is, right?
That's exactly. And all of this is about making sure that people that play the game can look in the game and see themselves in it. They don't have it's so the characters in the game are not just all hetero white dudes like me.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So then, first question coming down from the
Yeah,
chat, and it's a question I hear a lot in a lot of spaces. Like, I come from a working class family.
yep,
A lot of my family were very pro union because
yeah.
like it was that or you're gonna get screwed a lot. And so like I these beliefs have been in me, and then this happens, and here I am tweeting 8 hours for exploration mode, 8 hours for downtime mode, 8 hours for what we will.
Yeah, yeah.
But I know there are a lot of people who like unions have like they don't sit in everyone's heart, I guess. The same. So the very first question, unions being a good way to protect the rights of workers but can also kill companies, how does UPW plan on balancing to like keep the systems around but also get what like the workers deserve and need?
Well, the thing to remember is that UPW is not some far distant, remote, union mob or something run by people in another state. Like the people that make up United Paizo Workers are the people that work at Paizo right now, like the people that work there now, and we want to keep our jobs. We don't want Paizo to fail. We have no desire to make the company go bankrupt. We don't want anybody fired. That's not anywhere in our demands. We are not asking for boycott. We are not asking for firings. We want the company to succeed. And all we're asking is a seat at the table so that when these decisions get made, when decisions about salary increases get made, somebody from the union should be a part of that decision. That's all we're saying. And we're not trying to burn the building down. Your own union story, you say you come from a union family. My dad was a sheet metal mechanic.
Mm.
He worked in a fabrication shop my whole life. And my mom was a secretary. And these are the kind of jobs that America is built on, right? Like, I don't mean to sound like a Ford commercial or something, but that's like that's union jobs are good jobs, and they make America families more secure. We're not trying to burn down the building. And so just to finally kind of make sure that our question feels like they've been answered, we have just as much stake in Paizo's success as the management does. We want the whole company. If Paizo crashes, we lose our jobs. None of us want to do that. We love what we get to do. We get to make role-playing games. I make stories about space wizards all day long. That is the most awesome gig in the universe. I just want it to succeed, and I want to be able to eat more than ramen.
Right. Sometimes you got to have more than that dollar package of we're going to get on through tonight. Woohoo. So that makes a lot of sense to me. I definitely like you hear all of the stories that you just said about here are your bosses who now go work at WotC. I feel like a company does better if a company retains more
Yeah,
people who like I have had Pathfinder in my veins for 20 years and I've
for sure.
sat at the table for on and on a million years. And
Yeah.
so I know the system and I know everyone here and we're presumably all at least have a good working relationship.
That's
And
right.
it just sounds like a net better plan to me.
When for example, when Sarah Marie left, when Sarah Marie and Diego left, I mean, they took this huge amount of institutional knowledge, not about operations, about how things get done at Paizo, like in terms of community, the monitoring and maintaining the community and financials and all. I mean, Sarah Marie ran our booth every year at Gen Con. Nobody knows how to do that better than her. Like, there's just a million things that got done around the company that resides in the body of these long-serving employees. And when one of them goes, it's a blow. We've got to try to avoid that. We've got to try and stop this talent drain.
For sure.
Now, folks that get hired on at Wizards, like, they get offered a fantastic salary and a great new gig, like, more power to them. That's fantastic. But when folks get forced out of the workplace because it's so intolerable to work there, that's something that we can address.
Yeah, for sure. Because that sucks. Next question. Another issue that seems to be a massive problem across all forms of entertainment is the issue of, in quotes, crunch time. How has crunch time affected Paizo's employees and perhaps how it's affected the products put out by Paizo?
So this is a great question. I'm glad you brought it up. I want to note that we, on the editorial side, and when I say editorial, I mean like the people that actually make the game, like the designers, the developers, the editors, organized play team, art team, creative directors. I can only speak about crunch from that side. I'm sure that there's crunch in terms of warehouse and customer service, but I don't know about it, so I can't speak to it. On the editorial side, we're very aware of crunch. And I want to give Eric Mona props here because he is doing his absolute best to reduce crunch and make a more livable work-life balance for employees at Paizo. And right now, crunch affects different parts of the teams in different ways. For example, the edits team, led by, right now, Leo Glass is our managing editor, and he does a fantastic job. He took over after Judy left. And Leo has worked very hard to help to reduce the crunch that the editing team gets. Imagine our production schedule for a minute. And it goes to, let's say a project starts in development, and then it goes to art, and then it goes to edit. There's a lot of other branches along the way, but I'm simplifying for today. Well, that means that if development is late, it gets to edit late. And if edit is late, it goes to, and if it goes to art late. And then if art is late, it goes to edit late. But the date that the book ships, the day it goes out of edit, can never change. We can't not ship a book on time. So what that means is that everybody else can be late, but all that does is shrink the amount of time that the editorial team, the edit team, has to actually edit the manuscript. And sometimes that time can be excruciatingly short, harmfully short. And it makes people work long shifts and weekends to try to get stuff out on time. And we don't get as many editorial passes on a book as we'd like. Well, Leo understood this, and he's fought really hard to help reduce that crunch. So, I mean, there were stories back in the day when we put out Pathfinder 2nd Edition a few years back now. Leo and the other members of the edit team worked weekends for 3 months, right, to get that book out on time. That doesn't happen now. And Eric has been very good about trimming the schedule, so we don't put out as many books, as many projects every year. He hasn't cut important books, but he's cut like some of the side products that we put out kind of on the side. And this allows us to slightly reduce the workload and hopefully avoid crunch. So it's better than it was. There's not as much crunch, but some teams, especially edit, really get hit with crunch. Design also, I hear, I don't know what their situation is. Like, we're kind of silent a little, but it affects different departments more than others, but it's better than it was.
Yeah, that's fair. And that's definitely really good to hear, because I know, like, especially at the beginning of 2nd edition, a lot of the things that I was running would feel very like, who play tested this? When I'm like, I hate to say it, but when we ran The Show Must Go On.
Yeah, for sure.
We TPK'd.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you
exactly
I know exactly where you TPK'd because I wrote that, of course. So there's 2 severe encounters right in a row at the town graveyard. There's one in the church, and was that it?
Yeah, that was the other shoot. The first one was when that bear came out, it crit someone for 4 8s. I rolled 4 8s on 48, and okay, well, she just.
There, I cannot help you. There will blame the die 20, but that's not because of crunch. Well, in some senses, it is. What happened was is the game was still very new, and we didn't quite realize. And I say we, I mean we in development, how well-tuned, how finely tuned these challenge difficulties were. And so Fall of Plaguestone has an infamous reputation as being a party killer. Show Must Go On, the whole Age of Ashes, all of that stuff was written, including my adventure, before P2 was even done. Right? Because we had to have it out, but we had to finish working on it before the book could even come out yet. Now we've learned a lot. I just finished writing a volume of Bloodlords, the upcoming Pathfinder Adventure Path for Ron Lundeen, who's the developer on that. It's all set in Geb. And whole AP set in Geb. It was announced at Gen Con. I wrote the 2nd volume for that. And Ron was very clear to all of us, all the authors, in the outline. He's like, look, the game is hard. Severe encounters are very hard. Don't do what we did before. Don't put 2 of them in a row. Make sure there's ways for player characters to flee if they get in trouble. So we've learned. you're right. Those early adventures were really hard, but we've learned. And that wasn't because of crunch. It was just because of scheduling. And now we've had the game for longer, so we kind of understand it.
And we know we shouldn't put that many African dealers in a graveyard that chase someone who's like, you know what? I'm going to go to town. Why not? Let's see what's going on in town. Oops.
Yeah.
And now we're all dead.
I deserve it. I deserve every bit of that heat. That's my bad.
Fair. That's just always been like in the back of my head, like, is this because we're rushing, or is this because the entire meta is different than 3.5 plus? And now we know. Yeah. Okay, cool. So then what else we got floating around? The only question left for one person who is sold on UPW now is if Paizo will become a closed shop, which I'm not sure exactly what that means. They follow up with joining should be a choice, not a demand IMO. So I guess then how I'm interpreting that question is if you work at when this goes down and like everything is happily ever after and we're all paid more and we get to go out and buy our ramen at the ramen shops instead of just perhaps a single egg, one egg in the ramen. When we work for Paizo in that universe, are we mandatory? You must join the union, or is it still voluntary from there?
That's a very good question. And you know, I don't think UPW has a stance on. So I'm speaking from my personal opinion of what I would like to see. A union shop helps everybody, even the non-union employees. And I don't think we would need to require people to be members of the union. But that's just my opinion. I don't feel like we want these people that we work with are our friends. Everybody at Paizo is friends, even whether we agree on union or not. And there's not very many people that aren't on with. I think if you added them all up together, I don't think they'd field a football team. But if you, but if they don't want to join the union, that's fine. You know what? The union will help you anyway. A union helps everybody, even the employees that aren't members. And that's what I would like to see. I don't need everybody to sign union cards to work at Paizo. We'll run the union without you. That's cool.
That makes a lot of sense too, though. Like, you want to help everyone, and help is not necessarily like sign. You're not like a contract you must join. It's just we feel this way if someone else doesn't necessarily. You don't necessarily have to pull them in.
Unions, unfortunately, can become a political issue, which is really unfortunate because I think that what unions are fighting for is not a political thing. Workers want to be treated fairly. They want a voice at the table. That's really all it comes down to. We want to be able to be involved in these decisions, and that's I don't think that's a political issue, but unions are part of America, and America. The other folks that we work with, you know, they're our friends. If they don't want to join the union, that's cool. We can still go have pizza. We don't need you to sign a card.
For sure. And I feel that the political issue thing is that this is the world in which we live. But like, there's nothing political about, can I please pay for a mortgage, please? Like, you know what I mean? Okay, well, so far that seems to be basically all of the people in my comments, or in the chat rather, stated about things. I guess next question I could ask, and like, I know where my shirt hasn't come in, but it's on its way. I know like everything that exists, to get something off the ground, it requires investment, requires money. And I know there are a lot of people like myself, whether it's the content creator sphere, or it's just like someone who picked up a D20 once and Human Fighter Go. If we want to help the thing that we love grow, how can we do that?
It's a very good question. I'm glad that you asked. Okay, so first off, UnitedPaizoWorkers.org is our website. And if any of the stuff that I say is going too fast, you can just go there, and all of this information is there. There's a FAQ with like, how can I help? So and all these answers are there. Let's start off what I'm asking you not to do. Please do not boycott Paizo. We are not asking for a boycott. We're not asking for angry letters. We do not want you to call for anybody to get fired. We are working. We are working every day. I was at the office. I was working from home today on a upcoming Starfinder adventure pack. But what can you do? Well, you can write to the leadership team. You can write to the executives. Lisa Stevens, Jeff Alvarez, Eric Mona. All of their emails are on our website. And you can write to them and you can ask them to recognize the United Paizo Workers as the bargaining arm of Paizo's employees. You can go onto the forums. Now, I know the Paizo forums are infamously flame war prone, but listen, you don't have to engage with any of that. There's a huge thread with hundreds of posts about United Paizo workers. It's right there, 5 gold stars next to it, super active. You can just go there and you can voice your support for us in nice, courteous tone, right? And if somebody else is being mean, engage with them, right? Just walk away.
Mhm.
Um, if a lot of folks out there, maybe you withheld or you dropped your subscriptions when the whole Paizo accountability issue came down and Sarah Marie and Diego left the company in the first place, and you heard all these terrible accusations about what was going on in the company. Well, offer to come back, offer a carrot rather than a stick. I know a lot of folks out there I've been reading on Twitter. I've never played a Pathfinder game in my life, but if Paizo goes union, hell, I'll buy the core rulebook. Like I'll throw in my support for that thing. So we would rather see positive encouragement than threats and negative stuff. And you don't have to buy anything. Like you can just write to these folks and tell them that you side with us and that you want better conditions for the employees. You want our LGBTQ employees to be treated well. You want everybody to have an opportunity to work at Paizo and not just a small group. You want salary transparency. You want maybe something like a diversity officer to be hired by the company to make sure that we're all trained properly. Representation issues. There's you want to see those things happen, and you want to encourage the executives to do that. We also, of course, have merch. If you want to, your t-shirt's on the way. So is mine. We got t-shirts and buttons and pins and mugs and all kinds of stuff. And all that goes to help defray the costs of all this campaign that we're waging right now. Mm-hmm. So that's the short answer. So United. Oh, and also a hashtag on Twitter at Paizo Workers, and our hashtag is #UnionizedPaizo.
Retweet, and continue to retweet. Yeah, for sure. And I definitely feel that, like, because I know when Paizo accountability dropped, I took like a week and a half of just like, I'm gonna take a step back.
Yeah,
the war just came home. Hang on, wait a minute, what am I doing? But I like, short of, and I don't see. I know I should listen to his content more. I think I would like Rise of the Rule Lords a lot based on what I know of him as a person. But I know he posted earlier something along the lines of like, if Paizo union busted, I would need to reconsider the things I'm doing. I don't want to fathom a universe where that would happen because it seems so dystopian, and I'm going to hold on to the good thing.
Yeah.
But like, I still, even if that were to happen, like, you could still make the thing. It sounds like one way or the other it's going to happen. So people are going to get the thing that they want. It's just, it's good to know that no one is calling for the like, fire XYZ, burn this thing to the ground, so on and so forth.
Yeah, most companies do fight unions. About 70% of all companies oppose unions when they start to form. But Paizo is not like most of those companies. Paizo is not a, massive corporation. It's got a leadership team that's, you can count on one hand. And that means that those people can make decisions. And I believe that Lisa Stevens wants to do the right thing. I honestly believe. I've read her stories about how she had to fire people back when Paizo lost the Dungeon and Dragon licenses from Wizards of the Coast back in the day, and she was genuinely emotionally distressed by what she had to do in that time. Eric hates firing people. In fact, I think he's never fired anyone at Paizo. And I think that both Lisa and genuinely want to do what is right. I believe their moral compasses point north. Now, that doesn't mean they don't make mistakes. We're all human. We all mess up. Lord knows I have. But
for sure.
But I sincerely believe that Lisa and Eric want to do what's right, and I hope that they do. There's all kinds of union busting tactics deployed against unions. But we've been trained and inoculated against those tactics. We know what's coming. We know what to expect. Union busting companies always hire the same lawyers that are super expensive and use the same strategies. And so we know what's coming. We expect a no committee, for example, a group of employees gathered together who want to vote no on the union. They go public and they start using their own friends to woo people out of the yes column over to the no column. Or maybe some employees get off carrots if they were to change their mind. Maybe we can kick you up to a new position. Maybe we can give you promotion, or we can give you a raise. Maybe other people get threats, like, or they get made to feel guilty. Like, oh, Paizo's got this upcoming partnership with this big other company, huge licensing deal, but they're getting scared off by your union. And now you're going to cost the company a bunch of money. And don't you feel bad about that? We have not seen any of that from Paizo. Paizo has been perfectly quiet since Thursday. So that in one sense is we're all waiting, but I think that this is a big decision. Like, Paizo's executive team knows that unionizing is going to permanently transform the company and they're taking some time to think about that, and they're talking to their, as they should. Like, we need to give them time to come to the right decision.
For sure. And handling it really well. Like, I've talked to a lot of my friends about this, because I go and vent to my friends a lot of the time about, hey, how was work, Tommy? Well, this happened, and now I'm very stressed about it. Let's play a video game. And then, like, this week, it's just like, guys, Paizo's unionizing. What the hell? And a lot of my friends don't play Pathfinder. They play 5e. And, like, the consensus, and it's one that I share, is that I hope this becomes sort of a shot heard around the world for the industry, because Paizo's name matters. And then when this happens, and like, if it is effective, and if sales continue to do this, and the company continues to do this, the hope is this, what feels very historical. Perhaps I'm biased, I'm very close to the TTRPG community, but what feels very historical becomes very standard for lots of people, because my best guess is conditions are kind of like similar in other like development shops, like across the place.
Tommy, I think you're absolutely right. I think that what Paizo does matter. We're one of the largest role-playing games in the world, right? We might even be, if you just counted the D&D part of Wizards, you didn't count like Pokemon, or you didn't count Magic and all that. If you just looked at the D&D portion, I think we have more people than they are. I think we're larger by numbers than them. And that would make us they make hell of a lot more money than we, because D&D has had this phenomenal global success, and there's a lot of other stuff going on there. We don't. Wizards of the Coast is Hasbro's most profitable division. Makes more money for Hasbro than anything else they do. But in terms of people, I think we're bigger, and that would make Paizo the largest role-playing game company in the world. And so we do. Well, what we do matter. And I would love to see a unionization effort at Paizo become a model for other companies. Now, a lot of role-playing game companies, they don't have any full-time employees. They're a half a dozen folks working part-time as a side gig, right, to make games. But there are a lot of other games that kind of occupy similar spaces, from board game manufacturers to wargaming companies or video game companies, small video game shops that are similar in size to us. And it would be very exciting if we could make this a shot heard around the world, as you describe it. That'd be wonderful. We're kind of getting ahead of our skis here at UPW for that, but I won't lie, I would love to see that.
Yeah, whenever things like this happen, I'm always like, oh, this is cool. Here's the 5 years down the road because of this. It's hard for me to stay focused on the right here, this is happening kind of thing. And I guess also it's good to hear because it's very easy, especially at the beginning when all this went down, amidst the, like, here's a bunch of tweets about all the bad things. Because, like, I've met Eric Mona at Gen Con, the year of the playtest. Dude came up to me, set a badge down, said, welcome to Gen Con. And, like, it was, and here am I, just like, Paizo has just now noticed me. And it was this very big, like, I did a thing moment. And then this all comes out. And I got, damn it, I did a thing. And then this happened. But, like, knowing from someone who works there that the compasses point north, as you say, is, for me at least, very reaffirming, I suppose. I haven't met Lisa Stevens, but I am brain farting the name of the talk that she does at Gen Con. I was there for it.
Sure.
My God, I forget what it is called. If my friends are watching, someone will jump in the chat and yell at me about it, because he told me when I was going to Gen Con, you got to go do this thing. It's where this happens. And Lisa Stevens talks about the story of Pathfinder and how it started.
Yeah.
Blank. And then, like, meeting all of these people, it's like, oh, okay, this is cool. You obviously have your heart in the right place. Oh, wait. and then like hearing that things are going well and good and stuff. Like I said, very reaffirming as things move
Yeah,
forward.
I think it's important to remember, like there have been a lot of horror stories about stuff that goes on at Paizo, but I think as our freelancers and our players and our GMs and fans understand, the people that make the game are not part of this problem. We want to work with all of you to make things better. We were talking about this a lot over the Paizo accountability period last month since Gen Con.
Mm.
Folks were like, the Paizo, if Paizo's working conditions are bad and their Paizo employees are being treated poorly, hiring practices need improvement. That's not something that a developer or customer service person can fix. Well, but now it might be. If we can form this union, then we'll have a voice to make some of those things happen. And I firmly believe that a union will be part of a solution at Paizo. Eric will not have to go to so many emergency meetings, complaint issues, because there's going to be a process to deal with all of that, and he can get back to making good games, which is what he wants to do. And we can all work together to create a more healthy and sustainable employee environment at the company. Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
exactly again the whole point, because then someone stays with Paizo longer, somebody makes more Paizo stuff for longer, the team gets more synergy with time, and then you're not stressed about, can I also make rent this month, that kind of thing, which is like basically what it cycles right back to at the end of the day.
There's some challenges for employees that have been at Paizo for a long time because they don't really know where they can go. Like once you've been at Paizo for 5-10 years, you kind of hit it. Well, I mean, like, look at me. Like I'm a senior developer. I started as an editor 3.5 years ago. Well, if I wanted a promotion, if I wanted to go higher up in the company, there's not really anywhere for me to go. Unless I want to become a manager. Okay, look, I didn't come to Paizo to manage people. I came here to make cool games, right? And the only ranks above me are management jobs, managing developer or something like that. There's some creative director positions, but not as many as there used to be. So I guess what I'm getting at here is when people have been at Paizo for a long time, they can often feel like there's not a lot of places for them to go, and either they have to leave and kind of go solo and make a living, maybe as a permanent freelancer, maybe they're a full-time freelancer, or they try to find a gig at Wizards, or Wizards reaches out to them, which is actually more likely what happens. And so a union could address that. We could have some sort of system set in mind for like long-term pay increases. And yeah, maybe your title doesn't change, but that's a good, steady, reliable gig that you can raise a family on and buy a house with, and you can stay at Paizo, and we can continue to make these fantastic games. We can go on to whatever comes next.
Yeah, for sure. I feel that because, like, you go to the thing, you want to, like you said, I want to make a game that is really cool.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to be in charge of a team of X amount of people who are making the thing. So it seems just literally necessary to, like, make sure that position, you don't stagnate here forever and it just continues to do this and you continue making more money over time. So you can do the thing that I feel like for a lot of people who end up in positions like this, or like, I've been playing this kind of game for basically my whole life and I really like it, and we are dyed in the wool forever. Let's go make stuff about it, and then not have to like make those hard choices as life so often is. I see in the chat, discrimination bad, fix the problems so we can keep the Wayfinder glowing. And
that's right. That's right.
Oh, well, I'll be scrolling through, seeing if there's any other questions, things. I feel like we've basically hit all of the important stuff and all of my concerns now that, like, I've heard from everyone else, are like, I feel a lot more. I was confident before, but now it's like we've gone from a solid 90 to a full 100. Like, the sun might come out tomorrow and everything will be fine.
Well, I just want to, since we have a little bit of time left, I want one last thing, and that's the role that the freelancers have had in making all this possible. Because I was talking about how the freelancers were withholding work. Well, they had issued a set of demands to Eric and to the other members of the leadership team, specific things that they wanted changed in Paizo in order to make it a better company. Well, on Thursday, when United Paizo Workers went public with our intent to unionize the company, those freelancers amended their list of demands. They still want all those things, but they will immediately come back to work and turn in all those manuscripts they've been holding and take the new contracts that we are now behind schedule on offering. They will go back to work immediately as soon as Paizo recognizes the union. And that's provided us an enormous amount of leverage. Paizo depends on freelance work. We have new books that we need to schedule. We have new books we need to hire people to write those books. And we can't do it without freelancers. So the freelancers withholding their labor has allowed us to apply some pressure to the executive board. And now they have an easy solution. Like, okay, how do we please all the freelancers? How do we get all of them to come back to work? Do we have to go through all this long list of demands? Do we have to spend how many months do we have to spend trying to make Paizo better before the freelancers come back? And the answer is 1 day. That's how much time you have to spend. 1 day to say that you recognize the union and the freelancers come back. So I want to thank all of the freelancers and the freelancer they organized themselves. We didn't ask for that cooperation. They did it on their own. And it's important to note that often in union situations with creative people, freelancers are used against the union. When employees say, well, we want to unionize the shop, it's the freelancers that get hired to come break the picket line, to come in and do the work that the full-time employees refuse to do. Well, that's not an option now, because all of our best freelancers, hell, they were here first. They were on the front lines of this fight before we were. And now we get to back them up, And it's a fantastic partnership. And it's made this whole project much more likely to succeed, frankly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
When the literal, what feels like the lifeblood of the company, who's been like, as someone who sits on Twitter and we're all like, day X of Paizo accountability. Here's the thing we're feeling. We're all processing this. Like, it's been really, really heartwarming to watch. And I didn't know until the union announcement that the freelancers had just straight backed off. I thought that was like, union, okay, this. But yeah, no, for sure. That's like, instead of do this, just do the one thing, and otherwise you have the deadlines continue to push, and all of these people. I don't even want to fathom how many freelancers work for Paizo, but I have to assume it's a whole lot of people.
Well, this group is over 40. There's over 40 people in that group. And I don't know all of their names, but there were 40 plus, I think, that signed the original letter back at Gen Con.
Mm-hmm.
And those folks write, we've got, like I said, some of those are books that have been written in the past that they've completed and they're waiting to turn in. Others are ones that are currently being written and are now late. And others are ones that we just want to hire them to write new upcoming books. So we've got a major paralysis problem in our scheduling. We can solve that very soon. Right decision.
Yeah, right. Literally solved with one click of the button, and then everything gets to flow back together again.
And I want to clarify, like, I make it sound easy, but it's not, right? Because Paizo still has a lot of important stuff to do in terms of recognizing the union is just one part of a big, complicated process. So I guess what I'm getting at is I want to acknowledge that this is not an easy decision for Paizo to make, and they need time to do it. And that's totally legit. We want to give them the time to make that decision.
Yeah, for sure. I say do one thing, fix the problem. There's a big asterisk at the end of that.
Exactly.
Followed by just all of this stuff about things going on.
Sure.
I hadn't thought about how important, because I know I like unions. I know union good, but I've never had to the only time I worked at a place where unions were involved, I was there right before this. I drove a forklift in a warehouse, but I was there
for sure.
I was there as a temp. As so often back home it was like they'd hire 100 people, and then in 2 weeks 75 of them are gone, and here's 100 new people, and you loop. That was the closest I ever got to hearing about this is a thing you need to do, this is important. But then hearing about it and that would make a lot of sense. Just okay, these people don't want to work, these people want better jobs, boom, and then problem is solved. So knowing that what feels like the backbone of the company stands with the movement it's really, really dope, and I'm really glad to hear it.
Another common refrain amongst our employees, changes to health benefits. Our health plan gets more expensive and somehow less coverage every year, it seems like. And we'd like to get some union representation in decisions. Let's let the people that are affected by the health plan decide who decide what that health plan would be. And right now, that decision all gets made by executive leadership board, and that rubs a lot of us pretty wrong. So, benefits, salary, yeah, it's all part of one big package.
And then making sure everybody has the stuff, so when the inevitable, like, says the type 1 diabetic, yeah, no, like, we definitely want to have those things, because it happens entirely too much to folks, and it's
Well, we live in I'm in Washington.
mhm,
Washington State is an at-will employment state, and you can be fired here for absolutely any reason with no, you don't even have to be given a reason. Like, someone can just walk in and say you're fired, and they don't have to say why. Well, so what happens if if you are diabetic, or you're pregnant, or you broke your leg or whatever, and the company just decides to jettison you, you're just out. Well, that's unfair, it's unjust, and it's wrong. And a union can prevent those things from happening. And
mhm.
we can have some protections, which is what we deserve.
Yeah, for sure. It's almost like you should have basic rights taken care of by your employer. It's
Yeah.
wild. Well, I'm going to jump in the chat here and be like, anyone else got any
For sure.
questions in the last few minutes? Boom. Okay, so then we'll let that float for a little while. I hadn't even thought about the healthcare thing, but like, I guess I had just assumed, because like I live in a liberal state. I come from a very not liberal state, and I'm still
Yeah,
like, it's so much better here than it was there. That I guess I
that's
assumed
right.
that Washington would be similar, but then like all of the big logistics and things back and forth, it makes a certain amount of sense.
Washington is a very interesting state. The cities are very liberal, but the rural countryside is very,
Mm,
and Washington unfortunately has a racist history as a state.
mm,
There were a lot of folks fled here to Washington in an effort to avoid diverse cultures and populations elsewhere in the country, and that's been something we've had to try to overcome. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of work there to be done. We that's I love to get a diversity officer at the personally who could help us address this in terms of hiring and retention.
mm,
How can we get more people of color employees, and how can we help the people of color that we have stay longer?
mhm.
Yeah, that's a long-term problem I'd love to fix.
For sure, because that's such a like, it's a big part of Paizo's like whole brand. Like, I
That's right.
remember like getting into this, reading a bunch of books, and then like when Lost Omens Mwangi Expanse dropped, which is a book
Yeah.
I'm trying to get through it, and then Paizo's like, here's this other big ass book, please review this. And okay, so bookmark, let's go to Secrets of Magic, I guess. But it's like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why I come back to Pathfinder, and knowing that like that's a problem we are trying to fix.
We hired black freelancers to write Strength of Thousands, but I wish that we had more full-time black employees in the creative side so that we didn't have to do that, right?
Mm,
Yeah, absolutely. But you're right. Like, we did Hogwarts in Africa. We've done this whole book on fantasy Africa. Um, it's very much a part of Paizo's what we stand for, and we'd like the employees to represent that, to practice what we preach. Yeah.
sure. So then, last question before we stop. It has nothing to
Yeah.
do with the union, but it's
Right.
topical. How do, as one of my clients who is going to be in Strength of Thousands with me in 2 weeks,
Yeah.
how do we win Strength of Thousands? And so, last little bit before we wrap.
Well, so I do develop Pathfinder adventures, but I'm new to that part of the job. As a senior developer, I develop Starfinder adventure paths and Pathfinder adventure paths. I bounce back and forth
Mhm.
about a few months for each. Well, my point of saying all this is I didn't create Strength of Thousands, and I haven't read it, so your guess is as good as mine. I do have the first two books sitting right over there on my coffee table, and I'm going to run them. I'm going to start a Strength of Thousands Adventure Path campaign with my group on Wednesday. I actually got two groups. I had so many players, so many people wanted to play in this. I divided them up into two groups, and one of them we're going to just play the module straight as written, and the other I'm going to make up my own stuff at Magambia that's happening at the same time as the Adventure Path, but on a separate story.
Ooh,
So we'll have like two groups that are kind of happening at the same time. Maybe I'll get some crossover. Maybe the members from one will show up in the other, or we'll do like a Avengers Endgame and bring them all together into one great big day. But
awesome.
it looks like a great adventure. I was really excited to run it when I first read it. I don't know how we win it. I guess there's an evil big bad bug boss somewhere. So, look for the bug boss and stab him right in the multifaceted eye. That's my guess.
Favorite enemy, vermin. Got it. Sounds good. Okay, so then with nothing else floating around in the questions and me having taken about an hour of your time, that seems to be. Sure. Is there anything else here at the end you want to throw out that people should know, that you want people to know, so on and so forth?
Well, don't split the party, right? That's our motto, right? And we're keeping that going. But hit unitedpiezoworkers.org. Please visit our website. You'll see all the answers to your questions. You'll learn more about us. We're putting out daily updates with interviews like this one and other kind of media statements and appearances. Follow us on Twitter, or myself. I'm at Dr. Comics. And I want to thank you, Tommy, for allowing me to come on, answer these questions, and have a platform to speak. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, by all means. I'll literally be uploading this probably right after we get off to my YouTube channel, so more people can get in front of it and stuff. But it feels really cool to I've had BDG for 4 years, something like 4.5, and I do the thing because I enjoy the thing and I've been successful at the thing, but I also want to use the thing for good and to be able to put that good out. And when something like this happens, hell yeah, I'm going to be at the front of it, because as I've said before, and I'll say again because I'm going to drill it into everyone's head, 8 hours for exploration mode, 8 hours for downtime mode, 8 hours for what we will.
That's right. I circulated that on our union Discord, by the way. We have not. So we all got a kick out of it. And you're absolutely right. Gaming, the world would be a better place if everybody played tabletop role playing games. They are they are a good thing. They make people more empathetic. They're more aware of what other people are like and what they're thinking. They expose you to other ways of life, and they force you to cooperate with folks. You have to, when the person across the table has bought you pizza, or they're the ones giving you a ride home that night, you have to work with them. You can't just be a jerk, and you need the fighter and the rogue and the wizard and the cleric, and you all have to work together to solve the problem. And role-playing games are naturally cooperative, and they are empathy constructing engines. And if more people did it, the world would be a better place. And I firmly believe, like you, I totally agree with you. We can use the platform, the power of role-playing games to do good in the world. It's not just entertainment. It's not just a game. It can really make the world a better place and make us better people.
Indeed. And I can think of no better way to wrap this one up in a neat bow. Mr. Jason Tondro, everybody, thank you so much for coming out. I wait with bated breath to see what is going on in the history of the world, but with a bated breath on a happy note, thinking that things are going to pan out well. But thank you guys so much for watching. Follow everybody on the Twitters and stuff. And I will see you next time. Perhaps at some point I'll drag this man's over for a later update. Here's what we got done.
Thanks, Tommy.
No, I know.